All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.272. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start out with a headline, talking a little bit about Mbappe and perhaps his long-term revenge plan on PSG. And then this is just going to be a mailbag episode. Okay, we got 1 week before the real season preview of the Premier League and all the leagues getting underway. So we're just going to go down the list and hit all the questions and the topics that you guys threw at us via the Instagram story. And we're going to mix in a couple other things here and there. So that's going to be the most of the episode, the meat of the episode, so to speak. And then we'll, of course, have stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of distinguished beauties. We have a full house here. We got the whole band back together. It's been a while. It feels good. You guys look good. Great to have you. We're going to start out with Mr. Tommy McGunner, aka Tommy McCabe. Favorite thing? I know you do sort of coaching in your free time, as well as building your brain and getting your master's and I don't know, probably PhD and whatever else you're doing. But you coach kids. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about coaching little kids?
So overall, this is a good question. Just the age is my least favorite and favorite thing. When I was in Tulsa, one of the kids that I was coaching around 15 or 16 just signed like an academy deal with FC Tulsa. So that was really cool to see. So I guess the development of players, like once I'm gone, and there's a couple kids that when I was in Detroit that played really well in their first college season. So that stuff I really enjoy and keeping in touch with them and following their careers. My least favorite is when you have to do kindergarten through second grade. That's just babysitting, and it's the worst type of babysitting because they do not listen at all.
Oh God, welcome to my freaking world, Tommy. You're just getting a little piece of it for 2 hours a day. Okay, that's good answers. And thank you for teaching, the youth of America soccer and the next generation. Next up, Tyler Terrence. So I had to ask you a Minnesota question because I feel like there's just your Instagram story has been nothing but Instagram. Minnesota. What's the most surprising thing that you've sort of learned as being a sort of unofficial Minnesota resident over the last couple of months?
It really, I've learned two things. Number one is about life and how much you can learn to actually appreciate a place and hate it all at the same time if you're exposed to it too much. And number two, about the city itself, it really is, I enjoy it. It really is beautiful. Like, I think that if it wasn't like -40 and needed to build tunnels and skyways to be able to survive, that like it could be a top American city, but it's ugly stepchild considerably to Chicago, and it's really, really cool. And the soccer crowd there is rabid. They love their loons. They really, really do. Their 32-year-old head coach has had his work cut out for him recently, and they've kind of been on a ugly slide. But I also I get in, I get out. I'm in my hotel. They know me by name now, which is like kind of just like they wave to me whenever I walk in the door, which is kind of gross. But yeah, it's all good.
All right. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch. What's this talk of an overtime all-star game? What's this all about?
Yeah, we got an overtime all-star game, first one ever on Saturday. If you're in New York City, let me know. I'll get you a ticket. They are $0.00, but I can still hook you up. Yeah, it's to celebrate the launch of the jersey that we're coming out with, which is kind of a long time in the making. But we got two jerseys in partnership with Kappa, and it's going to be some friends, some footy, some food, some Olympic watch party, some music, just a good time. So come pop out, Lower East Side, New York, Saturday.
There we go. Okay. And last but never least, Mikey Fowler, aka Mikey Podcast. Listen, it's better than going first, right? What'd you do for the Arsenal game this last week?
Nothing.
Or was that this week?
It was last week, and I watched it from the comfort of my own home. Thank you very much. It was lovely. I was hungover from hanging out with Mitchell Goulet the night before, so that's we do hang out in real life. I just want everyone to know that.
Yeah, Everybody on this podcast has met each other pretty much in real life. But yeah, no, Mikey and I raged till the break of dawn.
First of all, you and Mikey are good friends in many senses. But Tommy, I've never met Tommy.
Neither have I.
Tyler,
Oh yeah, actually neither have I.
how weird is that? Tommy, get out of your bubble.
Tyler, I get. We basically work at the exact same times on weekends. So
True.
Yeah, I don't know, Sam.
It's weird. That's weird to say. We've been doing this podcast for however many years, and now
I was actually like in your neighborhood too.
Recently, was I there?
No, that was in November, I think. Last November, October.
Listen, we're gonna.
I think Tommy secretly hates us, and he just wants to like have his finger on the pulse of the media within the soccer world and just like get off the land.
Yeah, that's really what I get from this, the pulse. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the pulse of the questions from our peoples. All right. Actually, no, we're gonna do one hot topic. I gotta do one headline before we get to all the questions. So Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe. I don't know if you guys heard of him. So he, longtime PSG player, just signed with Real Madrid. He took a chunk of the, upfront money he was getting and plugged it right back into the French league, buying Caen, a team in this, I think it's in the League Two, so in the second league of France. And also, he's got a lawsuit going on, by the way, with PSG that he says they owe him 80 million euros plus back whatever wages or something like that. So he bought a League Two team, and my sort of thinking here, and I put an Instagram post up about it, like his long-term plan here is to basically build Caen up and sort of take over the French league from PSG based on how acrimonious his exit was and all that stuff. Now, obviously, that's sort of a joke, tongue in cheek, but it is really interesting that a current player just straight up bought a majority stake anyway in a league, in a second league team like that. Is this, Mikey, go to you. Is this something that you expect to see a lot more of moving forward?
Drogba with Phoenix Rising, Zaha with Croydon, Vardy with Rochester. I could keep scrolling. PK owns Andorra FC. Zlatan owns Hammarby. This is common. I think for the players to be in their early 20s feels a little bit unusual. That's what I think the story is here, that there is a longer amount of time for him to be able to play. But this is something that is generally accepted in the soccer community as normal. Being that young, I mean, listen, like, I don't think there's a huge difference between a player in his early 20s owning the club he wants to play for someday and a player starting a passion project up when they're retired. But in this case, like, no, there isn't any cause to be alarmed, I believe.
I mean, the difference between the Mbappe situation, you kind of touched on it, and all those other ones, those were guys that were either retired or just about to retire. Whereas Mbappe, I mean, as you said, he's mid-20s, peak of his sort of powers. Tyler?
What if they get promoted in the next year or two and qualify for Champions League and Mbappe is playing against them in one of those opening Champions League games?
Yeah, that was the sort of second question, is like, there's a conflict of interest issue here that could come up, just like we've always been talking with Red Bulls and all the teams they own and Citigroup and all that. It's kind of the same thing, but only more so because you're actually playing against them, in theory. So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Jamie Vardy does not count. I don't even know if Rochester played a game with Vardy as being like one of the owners. That is not.
Also, I don't know if like you actually have an answer to this, but were those previous examples that you mentioned majority stakeholders?
Drogba was the majority of Phoenix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is majority ownership of the club. That has to be a difference in all this, and the fact that he's early 20s and just has more money than he knows what to do with.
I think at the end of the day, that's probably the answer to why this is happening. But go, Tommy, you got something to add there?
I think he's gonna figure out pretty quickly, like some of these NBA stars that invested in MLS teams, that it's kind of hard to make money, especially when you're in a second division in a country that is currently fighting over a new TV deal and can't build a stadium.
Yes, France's TV deal.
I don't see him making.
But
any
if there's
money on
one
this.
angel investor that can come in and put his name on something in the country of France, who is it? You know?
Yeah, Mbappe's got to be up there. Okay, just something to keep an eye on for later, especially if Khan actually get promoted to Liga, which then it gets real interesting. Okay, listen. So our official season preview episode is going to be coming next week. That's where you can expect all the predictions, everything like that. So we're going to still touch on some stuff here and get to all the questions that we got. I just want to ask a kind of a simple question. It's a tough one though. I want to get your thoughts on the best and worst transfer business so far. So, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of deals, but there's still more to come. The transfer deadline hasn't, come and gone. So obviously there's going to be a lot of last second commotion and deals. I don't know. Anybody have off the top of their head, either a good, the best, or the worst thought? Mitch, seems like something you probably thought about.
I don't love United's business this offseason.
Is that just because they got hurt?
I mean, hindsight's 2020, but Lenny Yoro, nobody had heard of him in Premier League circles before he was signed by United, and then a $60 million price tag is a lot for a defender. And then he got hurt, so that doesn't help his case. But even before that, I don't know, it just feels steep for a defender, and that's not necessarily what they needed. I'm not in love with this United project, and that will be reflected in one of my answers to our later questions.
We will get there. Okay. Tyler, any thoughts on a good or bad move so far that really sort of stands out?
I mean, Villa have done a lot of business. I mean, a lot. I saw them. Granted, it was preseason, and Diego Carlos got sent off in a fucking friendly in the 22nd minute.
So
Openda was just barking at him, and he had the biggest smile on his face when we asked him post game about it. But for me, this whole Villa thing, I think that this might end up hurting them. How much change there is. This to me looks like one of the. Look at all the money that they spent, look at all the change that they're making, and they're going to end up finishing in 7th this year, and they're going to have a disaster of a season.
I mean, 7th would not be that bad. That wouldn't be a disastrous season for them.
7th and get bounced from the first stage of Champions League, most likely. That wouldn't be a disaster, coming off of qualifying for Champions League for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah, getting bounced.
You're still getting Europa League, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. You're not losing. You're not hemorrhaging money.
That's fair.
Okay, let's. I like this one. To your point, if you were Villa and you just gotten Unai Emery, who's pretty much a guy who plays to win now, can't really kind of build a long-term project. You bring him in to win 3 or so seasons, and he's done exactly that. You got to go for it, kind of, right? How often do these teams like a Leicester or a Villa get the chance to actually play in Champions League? And then I feel a little bit harsh saying you can't go for it.
No, I'm not saying can't go for it, but they went incredibly young with every single one of their transfers that they brought in outside of Ross Barkley is under the age of 23.
Matson, Onana,
which I guess is good.
Illing Jr. is a non-factor. Barandachea is a non-factor, I think, for me. I know that was kind of part of the Douglas Luiz deal. But anyway, this is all to say, and to answer Sam's question, the Villa one is probably the biggest standout to me with how much business they've actually done based upon the fact that they qualify for Champions League and they have that money coming in. And this judgment that we might make on them at the end of the season might need to be a judgment that's made at the end of the second or the third season with the new crop that they brought in.
I'm looking at their outgoing right now, though. Moussa Diaby outgoing for 60 mil, and then Douglas Luiz for 52 mil.
Yeah.
Good prices. Those two transfers alone, I think, are good business.
Agreed.
They needed to do some accounting, I think.
Some creative math.
Also, it would be nice if Liverpool made a signing this century.
Would be cool.
You in Barcelona, Brocalona. The one piece of business that that stands out to me as maybe the best deal so far this summer is City selling their backup striker for $95 million or euros, I guess it was. Like that's crazy. They paid 17 million for Julian Alvarez 2 years ago, and now they're selling him for 95. A corollary to that is Atletico Madrid might have the most intriguing summer going at the moment. They got Sorloth, they got they're keeping Joao Felix, it seems like. They now have yes, they lost Morata, but now they got Julian Alvarez on top of that. Like Griezmann, maybe is this like suggesting he's going to MLS or somewhere else?
Yeah.
He's going. It's just a matter of it's this window or next.
Yeah.
Tim, can I give you one?
Yeah.
West Ham gave 31-year-old Nicholas Füllkrug a 4-year deal.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
Besides that move, I actually like their summer.
Somerville's a good player.
Yeah, like the moves they've made besides that one, I think
they had leads over a barrel on that one, unfortunately.
Where'd all the strikers go, Sam?
Atletico Madrid.
Fair. and I will say this genuinely, the piece of business that the team, if I'm just looking at it unbiased, if I'm a football manager fan, the team that had the best summer was Tottenham.
I don't know how to take that.
You're embracing the rebuild, which I think is crucial.
Everything that comes out of your mouth, I just don't know how to take right now.
You've signed a lot of really young, talented players. I think that's what you should be doing.
Is Mikey already on his reverse jinx?
He's so deep. He's so deep in the reverse jinx. Like
you really think I'm being disingenuous here?
Well, yes. First of all, there's never been a word that's come out of your mouth that's been genuine when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur. Okay? So stuff it. Yeah, okay, I get it. Our business it doesn't stand out as one of the best, I would say, so far.
Okay.
I don't know. You threw me for a loop. You're throwing me for a loop still. Look at your face.
Where do you put Palace on this? Because I think that you could make an argument for they've had the best or the worst.
Wow. Which one would you? I mean, selling Elise for how much was it?
53.
Kamada for free is fantastic.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Daichi Kamada on a free.
Kamada is a good deal on a free.
Like they've got good incomings. The outgoings, I'm not a huge fan of because I think they're in a similar spot to Villa, where you have this young core and you could genuinely make a push for Champions League or European spot this season.
And they were one of the best teams. They were one of the best teams in the last 8 weeks of the season last year too.
Yeah.
So
they were
Adam Morton started playing. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of continuity. There's a certain argument for continuity with them. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, like if they had one more good season under Glessner, he's playing a type of football that all the top clubs want players from. And if they had success, those guys' numbers are going to go through the roof again. I think you make more money next summer. I think they've done it this summer too early.
I like what Ipswich have done with their promotion money and went on a little shopping spree. They clearly are new rich. They spent just about 60, almost 70 mil on 4 different transfers. Omari Hutchinson and Liam Delap being 2 of them from Chelsea and City. Steep prices for those players who are young and not a lot of Premier League experience. I like them, talented players, but it just seems like a lot of money to spend on 4 players that I don't think are going to impact you staying up. They'll impact, but I don't think those are the guys that are going to keep you up.
I think a really interesting question that I don't want to get into now is who's
I'm also seeing Connor Townsend as well. I played with a left back named Connor Townsend.
That's probably him.
That's probably him. Yeah.
The question that I want to get into at some point is who's going to be the best of the newly promoted between Leicester, Southampton. And
that's a next week thing.
That's a next week thing, and Ipswich. But yeah, that's next week. So let's get to the questions. Let's get to questions from listeners. So JT French, who's this season's Villa/Newcastle, meaning with a non-Big Six team that could finish top 4?
Palace.
Yeah, they were mine. I'm going back and forth on that now.
That is a big jump for them, though. I know that they played like it.
Is it though?
Based on their performance of the second half of last season, no. But if you so are we just saying that's them? That's Palace now?
I think Glasner will be at a Big Six club within the next 24 months.
I was going to say, we're talking about the players. I think they're going to lose their coach.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm saying that it will be as a result of what they do this year or next season.
Okay. One vote for Palace. It looks actually a couple of votes. Looked like Tommy was shaking his head. Mitch, Mikey, any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Mitch.
What most likely to finish top 4 out of the Big Six?
Yeah.
Or make a push, surprise you.
To make a push? Villa. I can see Palace, but I like Villa. I know we just
Does
Newcastle
Chelsea
count in this?
count? Does Chelsea count?
Does Newcastle count?
I'm counting them as top or like as the Big Six just based on perception.
Yeah.
And what I'm assuming this question is contextualizing them as, but based on last season, yeah, sure, let's go with Chelsea.
Go with Chelsea.
Small club.
Yeah.
I'm drinking the Gary O'Neill Kool-Aid. It's hard to watch them play in preseason and not think Wolves will be a little bit more formidable. I'm being serious.
I know you are, but you are basing this off of 15-second clips you've seen on. Well, you probably watched the whole game, but
no.
15-second tiki-taka tips.
The amount of knowledge that exists within this group, the amount of conversations that have revolved around preseason games in our group text is astonishing. It almost pisses me off a little bit. I'm like, why am I wasting my time reading about preseason? I know it's called a preseason game, but I'm like, why are we talking about this?
Meanwhile, Palace did whoop them in the preseason already.
I was about to say I was at that game. Wolves was all over Palace. It looked like Palace was working on a mid-low block. They scored a goal off half, and then the goalkeeper had the assist on their other goal. So
yeah,
Wolves completely dominated, and then Palace had those two plays.
I want to believe in them. I do.
You've been really hot and cold on Wolves over the season.
So speaking of Wolves, and whatever, we don't have to go down this route. He should be a front runner for the England job for me.
Gary O'Neill?
Yeah. Similar
I don't think that's crazy. Very familiar with every level of the country. Play that.
You know who just basically made a shout for the U.S. men's national team job?
Schmetzer.
Basically said I want it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't hate it.
Hold off.
Neither do I.
Hold off. We're going to get to the U.S. men's national team. We got a couple questions on that later. Hold off on that. Let's finish Premier League first. So Mike Pompiano and PSAD 19 questions about Tottenham and United, basically boiling down to who finishes higher this season. Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur. Mikey, I'm going to mute you. So we're going to go to Mitch. What do you think?
Spurs. And I'm not going to quantify everything I say with, I'm being serious like Mikey has to. Yeah, Spurs finish higher than United this season.
Tyler?
I don't know. Boy, this is
I think it's 6 and 7, but
this is I mean, this literally feels like a question of, who's uglier. United. I don't know.
Because
agreed.
Because basically what you're saying is we're trying to decide between two non-factors, so you don't even care.
Yeah, I'm not deciding between two Champions League sides right now. That's
Did United or Tottenham ask that question?
Are they in the room with you right now? No, it was Mike Papiano and PSAD 19.
Likely.
I swear. Adam, aka Avs fan 877, has Everton done enough to comfortably avoid relegation this season?
No, they're on 0 points.
That's 2 no's, 2 very strong no's. Okay.
I mean,
okay, when you say have they done enough, are you talking about Jake O'Brien, Jesper Lindstrom, Ndiaye, or this guy Tim? from Villa.
Omari Benjamin.
Sure.
He's one of yours. He's a gunner.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's a reason he wasn't a real gunner.
Well, keep in mind, this is a team that finished on 40 points last season after all the point deductions. So it's like, so this isn't a team that was, would have been struggling for struggling to get out of the relegation zone at the end of the season, if not for the fact that the Premier League, decided to ignore Manchester City and their 115 charges and just, slap the shit out of Everton.
I think they've done enough, and not only that, I don't think that the crop of teams coming up from the Championship is good enough to be able to threaten Everton to get relegated.
That's the point. I was going to save this for next week. I think it's a weak league right now.
Oh boy!
I don't think there's as much depth as scroll through it. I swear to God, I really don't think
we're going to draw against Southampton at one point, and it's brutal coming back to that.
I think it's a top heavy. I think it's a very top heavy league right now.
Let's save that for next week.
Please. Yep. That is my big time take on this. Yes, that helps them.
Mikey just wants whoever the intern is going to be working on that episode to clip him to be the first big clip in the new intern.
No, I'm being all right.
Put a note in your phone, future intern. You play Southampton on August 5th. Actually, no, you play Leicester City on September 28th, and then you play Southampton on August 5th. So
0 points.
October 5th. Those are back-to-back weeks, both at home, by the way. So if you drop points in either one of those, good.
Don't start.
England will have a coefficient of like 1 by the time 2030 rolls around.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Speaking of Chelsea, which you guys have already started the shit talking, can Chelsea finish top 4 after all that's going on with Enzo and everything else?
No.
Top 4.
Very 3 strong no's from Mitch, Tommy, Tyler, just without question. No's. I feel like I'm not nearly as down on them as you guys are. I don't know.
6, 7, 8 in this order: United, Spurs, Chelsea.
Wait, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so you're including Newcastle in the top 5, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm not quite as down on Chelsea as you guys are. I'm going to wait for next season or next week before we get into that. So this is actually a throwback from Chris Bosler to a few months ago. So we didn't actually do an episode the week after the FA Cup final. And let's be honest, we've not given United quite, we've been I wouldn't say we've been an anti-United podcast, but we just haven't had a voice that has been backing United consistently over the years. And so he's a little mad that we didn't talk about the FA Cup final, and we didn't give United any flowers for the fact that they beat Manchester City in a final. So let's discuss the FA Cup final really quickly and just give them some flowers. Just give them some flowers.
I was there.
What were your thoughts, Mikey? How impressed were you?
Yes.
That's all we're gonna give him. That's tough. That's unfortunate. Now we're really sort of cementing the fact that we do need to get like Dan Rappaport back on here a little more often to offer some Manchester United flavored opinions.
Exactly, speak on the game because it's
we must have talked about like if Ten Hag had lost that game, would he still be in charge? Type conversation.
I was rooting for him to stay. If you want that real answer.
Well, we didn't talk about it because we basically were off for the next week or two. So we never really, we may have talked about it in advance and said if he loses this game, he might be out. We may have said that, but that's not very complimentary.
I gave Johnny Evans a GOA last week, dickhead.
True. That's a good point. Okay. We're building. We're getting somewhere here.
I talked about how bad their business was 10 minutes ago. So we're talking about United.
Fair point.
I said they'll finish higher than Spurs.
They have a better right back than Chelsea.
There we go. We can clip these highlights and just somehow make a pro United podcast here.
Maybe if your club was a little bit bigger, then you would get your club spoken about more on Sam's Army.
Wait.
Oh, there we go. Liverpool fan.
Xerxes exciting. I think he's a better like YouTube compilation player than he is a footballer, but he's exciting.
Oh, I like Xerxes.
I
like
do too.
Xerxes.
I think he's fun. I hope I can eat those words 10 weeks into the season. I really do. I hope for your sake, I hope he's an exciting and productive player for you. But right now, for me, he's an excellent YouTube video.
Would you consider Darwin Nunez a YouTube video player?
Darwin Nunez transcends YouTube. That dude is way bigger than any of us.
He could have his own YouTube.
Yeah, Darwin Nunez has his own platform, like Jeremy Renner.
The issue with Darwin is that, like, 60% of his YouTube highlights are not good. Whereas, everybody.
That's not true. His goals are good enough to be able to put. Why do you think we bought him for 80 million? Is because he has a big enough highlight reel that makes him look like he could be one of the next Premier League great strikers. Like, it is large enough. And I've been on the record multiple times saying that I have bought into the juice and bought into the Kool-Aid and drunk it when I've watched some of those highlight reels.
Are you drunk on it right now?
Really, they were just the 2 goals against Newcastle early last year. But other than that.
Are you in or out on Darwin right now? Out.
I'm
okay.
All the way in. All the way in.
That pause was a little too long. Okay. That's all we got for Premier League. Let's move on to round the world, rest of the world, what do you want to call it? So we have a lot of questions. We have a handful of people all wanted to talk about Weston McKennie. So Asher, Jeff Lerner, my guy Kevin DeCalvo. So thoughts on Mota saying essentially McKennie's not in Juventus's plans and he needs to go elsewhere. So thoughts on where Weston McKennie goes from here, Tommy?
One, I have no issue with the coach saying that. It basically happened to him last year and he did okay.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I think he'll stay in Italy.
Tyler disagrees.
I know exactly. It's the other option, and it's quite likely is a stone's throw away from Tyler.
Is that where you think?
Oh yeah.
Minnesota Loons?
No, the other place that I pay rent at, my apartment in Cincinnati. Right. I think that is a lot closer than people are picking up on. Like,
I think it caught a lot of steam online. That
it did, and then it died down. But there's no reason for it to have died down. Like, it's being discussed.
Well, so we know that the reaction from a lot of people, on USWNT Twitter will be like, we know what the reaction will be. What are your thoughts on him going to Cincinnati?
Yunus Musa time.
Well, that's exactly the reaction that USWNT Twitter will have.
None of this is surprising, though, based upon the fact that, like, he hasn't wowed anybody for the better part of, like, a year at this point. And I feel like, Mikey, we've talked about this, whether it's on air or off air, like, what does he genuinely do for a Champions League side in terms of, like, there's not one thing he does great. And if you're Juventus, you can find somebody to give him his minutes that's going to just bring more production to the field. So with all that said, if you're Weston and you want to capitalize and make as much money as possible, going to get a DP deal at Cincinnati, and, given how they treat their players, the training facility, and then being, one of the best clubs in the league for the past couple of years, that kind of makes sense, which I think is a good thing for MLS, obviously. And I don't think it's a bad thing for Weston if he's asked to be the man. And what's been the big thing that everybody's been crying about with all the U.S. men's national team players is that none of them are the man at their respective clubs. And maybe this would be a good thing for Weston and his development for the national team.
Okay.
I mean, similarly to what Tyler just said about big teams having no use for a player let's list out some things that he does really well, right? He's a very physical, solid defensive player. He's great on set pieces. And he can carry the ball forward. He's a ball carrier by all extent. I was thinking, if you want to throw a random name, like completely out of nowhere, come to one of the relegated Premier Leagues or the newly promoted Premier League sides. Sit in a low block, try to make an impact in a big league where you're going to get minutes on a bad team.
How'd that go for him the last time you did that?
I know. Couldn't even get on the field.
Well, they were not sitting in a low block, at Leeds that season.
Chasing shadows.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, something similar. I mean, like,
off.
if you want to talk about a type of team that fits his style of play, I think it's more, it's a recently promoted side somewhere. But MLS, sure. I mean, it's just gonna. I think what MLS is gonna do really is highlight a lot of his weaknesses on the ball and the rest of it. So I don't know. I don't quite rate him at this stage of his career. I hope I can get my opinion changed.
Okay, fair enough. Next up, Martin Stennis. What needs to change? So now we're on to the conversation with Schmetzer and everybody else. The U.S. men's national team coach situation, which we've been texting about, obviously on and off over the past couple of weeks, and we're not really making any progress here. So, Martin Stennis, what needs to change with the federation to attract top coaches?
I think that's the $1 billion question, I think.
It's a hard one to figure out.
Like, there's the easy answer of like what we see and like the mild rumblings that make their way around Twitter or whatever, and what you do or don't want to believe. But like, there clearly continues to be an issue with something. I don't think that Klopp not taking the job and not being interested has anything to do with the federation.
I think
No, but what about guys like? Yeah, sorry, what'd you say, Tommy?
I think there needs to be like a lot of turnover in the people that have held executive positions in U.S. soccer, for maybe a European coach that is used to doing something completely different or used to a different power structure at the club or national team level, to then go, okay, yeah, I'll take that job. Because I think they're, one, unfamiliar with how our federation operates, but then also maybe don't agree with it or don't like it when it gets down to it. I mean, you heard Jesse Marsh say the same thing. And I think he has a very European approach on how the power dynamic should be between executives, technical staff.
Sure, and that's a fair point. And you may be just dead on. It felt like with Jesse Marsh, it was something personal. Somebody fucking did something to him, and he was like, "Fuck that person. I'm not gonna go work there unless they're gone." Mitch?
It did feel like that. It felt like either they had wronged him in the way they communicated with, or whatever their offer was, or whatever. But separate from that, or like related, it's bad for the optics of the whole federation if an American coach doesn't find this job really, like, attractive. And like kind of what Tommy said, that if a European coach is not familiar with our federation and how it operates and what the expectations are, then it's a little bit more of a daunting task to like step into something like this with, like, again, like Tommy said, the incestuous hires that have plagued the federation for so many years now. Like, it's systemic, and I'm not going to profess to know everything about all levels of the US soccer, but I also think the expectations and the attitudes need to change. Everybody that talked about Greg, whether it was before or after he left, talk about what a nice guy he was and how he had such a great relationship with the players. And I just don't think that's what we need or should demand from our coach in the relationship with our players. We should demand results more than friendship. The power of friendship goes a long way, but the Tyler and the Knicks will tell you it only takes you, so far in the East. And I just think we need a manager that prioritizes results instead of owning the locker room and being friends with the guys.
Where the fuck do you get off with a comment?
Yeah, that was a stray. I apologize. I was thinking about the Eastern Conference Finals earlier. That was a stray.
It's so
Such
heinously unnecessary. So first of all, fuck you. Second of all, Tyler Adams said it in his interview. I think it was with Men in Blazers. He was just like, we need a coach who more or less is going to be ruthless, who's going to come in, demand results, and that's that. And to me, that signifies everything that we believe to be true and everything that we were reading, which is like, everybody's too close with Greg. It's too soft. It's too comfortable. and nobody's afraid of losing their spot, losing their position, whether it be in the starting 11 or whatever. Like there was too much kumbaya. And I think that is also a representation of like, that isn't just Greg. That's at the top. That all trickles down. If there's anything that I've learned about this business and this industry, is like, whatever you see from the head coach and whatever the culture is that you see on the field, the people at the top are responsible for cultivating that, whether it's conscious or not. So that also might be the issue. And back to the original question of like what systemic things need to change within the federation.
Which I don't disagree with you, but I also want to add, I think that was needed at the time that he was hired.
Agreed.
Like, and a
Sure.
love for playing for the national team. And I think that's what people are forgetting is like, this is just a natural evolution. And maybe that's something that he did positively that we don't give him enough credit for. Is I think like it was a place full of hate playing for the national team after you don't qualify for a World Cup. And so to change that around, and now we're at a stage where no, it needs to be more ruthless. It needs to be higher standards. I think it's great.
But my biggest gripe continues to be with what I see on the field is that there doesn't seem to be this sort of like overwhelming amount of pride playing for the badge, and we see it. And we see it with, Russia blood to the head from Tim Weah. We saw it with Serginho Dest. We see it just kind of like in the way that we go about our business sometimes. So I don't think that that's totally been solved, but maybe the next evolution of that is the ruthless nature. Is like, it needs to be a good environment to go play in, but it also needs to be one that is strictly professional and strictly about business and kind of fuck your feelings type thing.
Yeah, I think that it cultivates I don't want to lose this shirt pride sense of playing for the shirt too thing.
All right. We'll take a little bit of a tangent here. We got to talk about Jim Beam or Tim Ream. So somebody on this podcast, I think, just talked to the guy. So give us a sense of what he's saying. And then my question about this whole, Tim Ream to Charlotte, which I think is now official. Does this sort of cement the fact that we need a new partner for Chris Richards in center back? But first, what was your experience like with Tim Ream?
Yeah, it's fully announced in public now. But I was in Charlotte yesterday, and they were internally calling it the Jim Beam announcement, which I thought was really good. Tim's an awesome guy. He is going to provide a lot of veteran leadership to that club, and not just in the locker room. Like, he's going to make a huge difference on the field for them as well. The dude is aging like fine wine, seriously. But he's excited to be there. He does not view this as like a MLS retirement move. It's a new challenge for him. He says he's excited to play the MLS game. I'm paraphrasing him now, but I think he's going to provide a lot in that locker room. And to the Chris Richards point, like, it's kind of this is a bit of a wake up call that we need a proper center back duo right now, or at least a trio that we can rotate when need be, because Tim has another good couple of years in him, and Chris Richards probably needs somebody that he feels comfortable with, and that guy feels comfortable alongside him as well, in like a consistent partnership. That would be our next step on the field for U.S. men's national team.
I'm sure we'll talk about this plenty of times,
Yeah.
moving forward, so we don't have to go too deep into it. One more MLS related story question and story, and I'm sure Tyler probably has some thoughts on this. Marco Reus. I don't think it's quite official yet, but it seems like it's happening. Okay, it's official. Marco Reus to LA Galaxy. So does that make the Galaxy the sexiest team in LA at the moment, Tyler?
I think that it will get them there once people really start to pay attention to like what they're doing on the field, because they've been one of the best teams to watch in MLS this entire season because of two guys that most people have never heard of, in Joseph Paintsil and Gabriel Peck. And I think that they've just had a lot, and like Joveljic, like they have really good players, but just not the same types of names that you're used to seeing out of the LA Galaxy over the years. Now that he's there, I do think that that's probably the right sentiment. But if Griezmann comes over and Giroud hasn't played a game yet, like, it's kind of difficult to like totally dismiss LAFC as being the sexiest team. And then Messi's just waiting to come back. So like, this is a pretty cool time to be involved in MLS because like any which way you look in the East or the West, you've got some ballers on the field. And then that's to say nothing of Columbus, who, are obviously playing some of the best soccer in North America right now. So it's pretty fun.
And they fit a completely different mold than all those other teams.
No, let's just rephrase that to the best soccer in North America.
Okay.
No ifs, fans, or buts.
Better than Club America, who won a double in both the Apertura and the Clausura in the past year.
I am of the opinion Columbus is a top 5 to 10 team to watch in the world, period.
I said to watch. You said to watch.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second now, because we've already had this conversation on this podcast. It's because of how good they are comparatively to. If you threw them into the Premier League tomorrow, are they your top 5 team to watch?
No. I do recognize it's a comparative thing for sure, because they play the way that they play, but like the way they do things, yeah.
Do they escape relegation in the Premier League?
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Okay.
Bad league, anyway.
Are we taking this year as the bottom 3?
Yeah, all right. 24-25. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So a couple quick things to touch on the Olympics, which is, other than Leagues Cup, the only thing that's going on in the world of soccer that actually matters, at least meaningful games. US women. So we got by Japan 1-0. We got by Germany 1-0. Neither one of these games were, much. They weren't very beautiful. They weren't very pretty on the eyes, but listen, we got things done. Trinity Rodman got the game winner against Japan. Then we had Sophia Smith, scoring from a pass from Mel Swanson against Germany, which is sort of appropriate because those are the 3 players that have been carrying this team from an offensive standpoint so far. And remember, this is a team that they just could not score. That was the problem coming into this tournament. So question for the crowd here from Dave: how good would how good of a job has Emma Hayes done so far? Is this the team? Is this Emma Hayes? What's your Mitch? What's your thoughts on Emma Hayes so far?
I think she's done an excellent job. I think she has coached for results, and that's kind of been apparent in the way that this team has conducted themselves. We should be finishing more of our chances in front of goal. That final third ball is still lacking sometimes, but I'll chalk that up to congestion. You really only have 2.5, maybe 3 days in between games at these Olympics, and that's that takes a toll on your legs. I think for what Emma Hayes was given and the crop of players that she has, I think she's done a really good job. She's got her girls in a World Cup final. Olympic final, excuse me. Can't ask for much more than that. And I like their chances against Brazil on Saturday. I'll give her an A- so far. I'm really liking her job.
Yes, I agree. She's playing to get results, and it's hard to take anything away from a coach who hasn't lost a game.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. I think there has been some takeaways from this tournament that actually aren't necessarily related to Emma Hayes. Number one, this podcast has been a long-term, Horan Stan podcast, but Lindsay Horan, wow, she's hurt or she's lost a step or something. She has just been off. Finally, Hayes kind of seemed to at least tacitly acknowledge it by taking her off in the last game. I don't think she should start the final. She just has not been playing well. Naoma Germa has been incredible. Probably the best player on the team.
Germa.
Center back. She's been the best player on the team. She's consistent. I know that she's basically been putting out a lot of fires, which has, kind of put the rest of the team, made them look better, especially the midfield. And anything else, those were the main things. I don't think that our offense is fixed. We played 2 teams that have played kind of essentially park the bus, lower blocks with, Japan and Germany. We really didn't do much against them. So we still have something to prove.
Shout out Goalkeepers Union on that goal for Sophia Smith. Shout out.
Oh, I thought you were just going to give it to Nair for her. She's been pretty good too.
Same as well, yeah.
Yeah. No, she's been great. No. That was a sarcastic sort of Mikey reverse jam.
Yes.
Good finish, but that was not great goalkeeping.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. The only thing of Brazil, I thought Spain was the better team. I thought Spain was going to win that game. The fact we get Brazil, I know Marta's coming back. Like it almost feels like a letdown that I thought it was going to be U.S., Spain, and that was going to be the two best teams in the tournament. Brazil, they lost to Spain in the group stage. They finished third in the group behind Japan and Spain. Brazil has played a ton of minutes. They've played like so many extra time minutes and everything. So I don't know. I feel like a little nervous just because like I feel like we're just much better than them. So we should win this game, which always makes me feel nervous as a Tottenham fan. We'll leave it at that, though. We'll head on to stoppage time, put a bow on this episode. So Ivan Toney's best bets. I have some Ivan Toney's best bets. I know you guys might not because we don't have the official season going on right now. Do you want me to throw some out and just call it a day, or do you guys want to do some yourselves?
I got a couple.
Okay, you start, and then I'll finish it up.
All right. So we got one tomorrow that is in the men's Olympic side. I like Morocco money line over Egypt. They, with their performance against us, they convinced me that they are a fun team to watch, and I think they're better than Egypt. I like Leeds over Portsmouth money line on the weekend. The championship starts on Saturday, which is just a nice little appetizer for the Premier League next weekend. And then I like under 2.5 for Brazil US in the Olympic final for the women. I don't think that game is going over anything more than 2 goals. So put those all together, you're at plus 275.
Okay. I don't mind that. I'll give you my typical sort of overtrain picks. We're going to miss Wednesday because today's Wednesday. So I'm going to give you 4 aside rather than 5 aside. On Thursday, we're going Molde versus Cercle Bruges. That's a Europa qualifier. It's the first leg, which makes me a little nervous, but both those teams have been scoring and giving up goals. Friday, we're going to one of my favorite leagues in the world, Bundesliga 2. Kaiserslautern is hosting Greuther Fürth. Saturday, we're going to the Chinese Super League, where we'll get the Changchun Yatai versus Wuhan Three Towns. Listen, just go with it. Just follow me on this one. And then finally, we're going to go to Iceland on Sunday. Iceland and Sweden have basically been keeping me alive over the last few months of the summer with overtrains. We're going to go to Falkir and K.A. Akureyri. That is absolutely not how you pronounce that, but Akureyri. So if somebody can do a better job, good for you. But that one is absolutely going over. And there you go, 4 overs, easy money. And then finally, Tyler, you got one.
I got one. I'm back I'm back in the lab. So Leagues Cup Special Edition, 4-way parlay, all to advance. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We got Columbus over Sporting. We got Portland over St. Louis, Toluca over Houston, and San Jose over Necaxa. I'm not exactly sure what that comes out to, but all of those teams to advance.
Portland, Columbus, Portland, and what were the other two?
Necaxa. And Toluca.
Okay. All right.
Toluca are making a deep run in this tournament. If you would like to bet to them to potentially progress, Toluca is one of the most fun teams in this competition. They're very, very, very good.
And this man watches a lot of Leagues Cups, so listen to him. Okay, let's finish it up with everybody's favorite segment, GOAWs. I don't want to take anybody else's picks, so I will sort of hand it off to you guys. Mitch, you look like you're ready to go, so I'm going to go with you first. You're on mute, though.
Yep. I got a story which will then swing into my GOA. So I've been on the road for like 3 weeks, bouncing around to all the European teams' American games. It's been fun. Met a lot of cool people, done a lot of cool stuff with some cool players. The coolest of which being working with Arsenal. And that was a little bit in LA and a little bit in Philly. But at the LA game, I was in the media scrum down below. I had press passes and I had worn an Arsenal kit to this game. Now, usually when I get invited to games, I will wear a kit or I'll wear like overtime stuff. And I had talked to a couple players, and a guy in a suit comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, what outlet are you from?" I said, "Overtime." He goes, wow, I'm surprised you showed up like that. And I was like, excuse me? And he goes, I don't know if you know this, but in American sports, it's extremely unprofessional to show up to a game in a jersey. And I was like, one, I am American, so I don't know what you're getting at there. Two, I was like, oh man, sorry, meant no disrespect. I'm not usually up here in the press box. I'm usually like down on the field creating content or elsewhere. Sorry, it won't happen again. And he goes, you're right, it won't happen again. I'm gonna ask you to leave. And I was like, are you serious? I was, I, I was shocked. And this is in front of like some other media members too. I'm like, all right, man, I'll head out. As I'm walking out, this is, mind you, this is after the game. We're down in the tunnel. As I'm walking out, Urian Timber recognizes me from, we've done 2 shoots together now, recognizes me. I say, hey, good game, Urian. And he daps me up on the way out with this guy that had just kicked me out in view. And he says, hey, good to see you, man. I'll see you again soon. And so I kind of like turned around and I was like, just did a shrug to him, like, look, man, you can kick me out. That's fine. But that's my boy Urian Timber. And if I wanted to stay, I could. So my goal this week is Urian Timber for just being a cool dude and being in the right place at the right time.
Wow, that is.
But yeah, I got kicked out. He said if I had seen you walk into the stadium with that on, I wouldn't have let you in. And I was like, okay.
Who?
I don't know this man's name. I think he was with the third-party organization that put on the tour, like the tour. But
we're talking about a preseason fucking summer friendly,
yep.
and they're getting on you like this.
Who loves
what
the rules?
Fuck?
Oh, he loves the rules.
Oh.
And this isn't a written rule or anything. This is just kind of like I understand if I were in, Tyler's position and I were calling a game, that would be a little uncouth to show up in a jersey. But I'm a content creator, dude. I make silly internet videos, and I've done a lot of. He used the phrase extremely unprofessional. I've done a lot of extremely unprofessional shit in my time. That's not one of them. So, shout out Urian Timber.
I mean, it's rather ironic that this guy is talking about extremely unprofessionalism when I mean listen. This is a summer friendly. Nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares.
Oh, good.
Ridiculous. We need a name though. We need a name.
I don't know. I didn't get the guy's name. I wouldn't drop it if I had it, but I genuinely don't have it.
Okay. Unnamed Hardo. We're on to your fucking
come in my box anytime you want, Mitchell.
I appreciate that.
All right, Tyler, what do you got for us?
Tommy, grow up. Shout out to our boy, I feel for him, Tim Parker, Sam Pham. Traded from St. Louis to New England, 650 in GAM. Henry Kessler was involved. Great dude. Sometimes that's how the business goes. St. Louis weren't doing great. New England obviously not doing great. Went from one mediocre situation to another. But yeah, he's going through right now. He just had a beer named after him in St. Louis. You can't trade the guy who has a beer named after him at a brewery in the city in which he's playing.
I still haven't gotten one of those too. So don't discontinue it. Shout out Four Hands Brewing. Keep it on tap. Let's keep. We at least got to.
What do you do with that beer? You probably produced thousands of gallons of it. What are you supposed to do with that? You just
put it half off. Half off.
Half off.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I'm glad you brought that up. He was going to be one of my honorable mentions. I talked to him. He was, surprised, and he didn't say this, but it sounds like he was kind of, hurt by the whole situation. Just sort of. He felt like he would put down roots in St. Louis and he is
St. Louis City. He was
like a founding captain of the club, right, with Berkey, vice captain, whatever. And he's a great dude. He got sort of married, I think, after he moved there. He definitely had a kid after he moved there. Yes, it is the business. I get it. It stinks because I loved going to games and sort of shooting the shit with him. And so personally it sucks. But for him, obviously, what? Can
I also agree with everything that you're saying? My real GOA for like the shenanigans, Luis Openda and Diego Carlos for their shenanigans at the friendly last week. I mean, I don't know. They must have been in on it together, but it was so much shithousery for a friendly in New Jersey. And Lord only knows what those two teams got into once they crossed the Hudson River after the game. But I'm just like, can't we just, why do we need to do this? And I'm not saying it because it made my life as a commentator extremely difficult in the second half while a team is down to 10 men in the middle of a friendly. No man is prepared with enough notes to be able to get through that second half, especially when all the academy kids are coming on. But like, fuck me. Why was Diego Carlos just throwing elbows from the get-go in that game against the side that he's never even seen before, A, and B, why was Openda riling him up at every opportunity that he got, including after scoring a goal, which was essentially a tap-in? Both of them, for their advanced degrees in the dark arts, are my GOAWs for good, for bad, or for better and worse. Just two knuckleheads on the day. It was fucking insane. And we asked Openda about it, and he just had this big smirk on his face. He goes, sometimes that's the game, man. And I was just like, is that sometimes the game? Because you scored a goal in a preseason friendly in New Jersey, and you just literally just jawing in Diego Carlos's ear, the one guy who you know is going to throw an elbow and clothesline your ass. And that's exactly what he did. Anyway, I'm done.
That's fair. That's fair. Good shout. I remember you were texting us during the game, being like, I don't know what's going on in this game right now. I don't know. I'm going to get through this. Okay, Tommy, what do you got for GOAWs?
My one big bone to pick with Olympics is the gear always feels like 10 to 15% more amateur than every other piece of that national team's equipment. Just they remove the logo, whatever. But somehow Thierry Henry has made what would likely be an oversized dry fit polo on everyone look incredibly good looking, and so he is my GOAW.
I mean, of course you're going to give it to an Arsenal guy, but if there is one Arsenal guy that
He's been hitting the gym hard, I'll tell you that.
I don't like talking shit about it. It's Thierry Henry.
Ozil's been hitting the gym hard too.
Yes.
He's a brick shithouse.
Yeah, he's yo.
What is he training for?
Yeah, he's getting shot in the ass. First of all, he's getting shot in the ass with horse steroids. Let's fucking be honest with each other here. There is no way that Ozil is naturally doing what he's doing.
Oh.
Yeah,
because of your blurred out background.
Yeah, the Zoom knows that that's like a dirty word.
And then this is the one I wore to the game last night. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
This is a podcast. Most people can't see it, but anyway,
shut up.
Listen, Ozil, there's no way Ozil's natural. I'm just going to put that on record. Okay, fair shout. I'm going to give my honorable mention to the Manchester United physios for reasons we've already talked about. They, Rasmus Højlund and Lenny Euro went out within minutes of each other, and they're out for 2 months or 3 months. My actual GOAW is going to two Polish referees. So they were supposed to referee a Champions League qualifier between Dynamo Kiev and Rangers on Tuesday, except they got arrested. Their names, by the way, Bartosz Frankowski, and I guess they didn't actually give the other guy's name. So Bartosz Frankowski and his assistant, they got arrested the night before, drunk and running through the streets with a traffic sign.
Hell yeah.
So like there's a lot of ways you can go with this, but the fact that some dudes went out and got drunk the night before gets you suspended for a Champions League game, whereas Michael Oliver can show up drunk to a Champions League game and VAR it, and he gets promotion. It's very strange, but shout out to Bartosz Frankowski and his assistant. Just guys being dudes, having some fun out on the town. Not a big deal.
Great GOAW. Really great GOAW.
And actually, those guys were actually high level. They refereed the 2023 Champions League final. So these are not like sort of throwaway refs. They're top of the notch, and they know how to have a little fun, as Polish people tend to do, I will say. So shout out to them. All right, that's all we got. We're going to be back next week, perhaps with an intern, definitely with a season preview. So everybody get excited for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mitchell. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Tyler. You guys are the best. Thank you, everybody who's been listening. We'll be back next week. Bigger, better, faster, stronger. We will see you guys then. I don't know how to end this. we changed the way this works, and I don't know how to stop recording. There we go.
Cut this.